There.
Yes, okay. Hi there, Warriors, and welcome to this new live stream on the Uruguayan Heroes YouTube channel. The World Cup is just 1 week away. For Uruguay, we have to wait a bit more than 1 week, but we are here with Alessandro and Farid. Both thank you for being here. You will have seen Alessandro before, obviously. Farid, new to.
Thanks for having me, guys. As the saying goes, long time listener, first time caller. To here on the Warriors, and born in Uruguay. So my childhood there. Very strong affinity to the national team throughout the years and throughout the different countries I've lived in. And also to my travels back to be able to go to the stadium and watch the team play. Um, Very excited for what's to come, just in a matter of days, and look forward to having a conversation with the two of you and with the audience watching about just thoughts on the current team and on just what I think about the current squad and the opponents ahead, and just an overall general feeling that of the team that we're seeing from our perspective.
Yeah, great to have you here. My mic just went AWOL back then, so that's why the she was a bit odd. Alessandro, also thank you for being here on school in school still. I see.
Yeah, we've got I'm in a sort of a study room hidden, and I've locked the door away from everybody, so nobody's gonna walk in. Obviously, I'm studying, but no, I'm very happy to be back again. It's good to see everybody. Good to see you both. I can't wait. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I was thinking to myself, so weird to have the World Cup, in November. I don't really feel too excited, and now we're a week away, and then I started looking at the images of the team in training and the players arriving, and Cavani and Suarez, and I'm completely taken over by the sort of hype and the fever at this point. It's hard to get any work done during the day. My mind will start drifting to different permutations in the group and whatnot, but it's going to be an exciting time.
No, I see. I certainly echo that. I mean, I don't know how it's been for you, Farid, but a week ago, for me, the hype for the World Cup was not there. Also because club football was still going on, but now the players have left their club duties and joined up with the national team, and not just the Uruguay ones, but also if you see the Brazil training sessions and other training sessions, you really feel well, this beautiful feeling which you can only feel, which only can be generated by the World Cup, right?
No, absolutely, it is. As a fan of the sport, World Cup fever does hit. Especially when you have a team that you're pulling for, and if you're also again a fan of the sport and of the competition itself. There are different moments and peaks and way when you feel that fever, either from the draw to certain qualifier matches. But now, when you're at the home stretch, when the tournament is about to begin, you feel that excitement, especially when you're thinking as a fan, if you watch it a little more closely, of who's going to be on that final list of 26. And as a fan, waiting to see, okay, when is that list coming? And when the announcement was made, it's going to be launching on this day. And I was walking around, I was out, and I saw, oh my gosh, they made a production. They made a video to do this thing. All right, I get it now why it took a little longer, because this thing was in post production, and they were also seeing who's on the final list, and because and none of the whispers of what's been going on did we hear anything about a video. Right, there was even a report from Ovacion that Maxi Gomez is not on the team, and then we saw that Maxi Gomez was on the team, or the unfortunate news of Damian Suarez not being on the team, as it can happen. Not everyone is going to be on the team, and the way that news broke also. So by then I started to get more into it, and I don't know if I sent it over to you, Dave. I don't know, Alessandro, if you've seen the what's that show's called, Por la Camiseta.
Yeah,
Rafael
yeah,
Cotelo, and
yeah, Cotelo, and
these little snippets of Quien Es
yeah,
just like pulled me in, and I've just been listening to these episodes, or while I'm driving or watching at home,
yeah,
and you're seeing these guys just cry.
yeah,
When you're talking about their histories and their
yeah.
lives. Like, it was the first time I
Bentancur.
had seen the Betancourt episode,
Yeah,
about his mom passing and
yeah,
his wife, and his daughter being born. But also in the Suarez episode, it's the first time that I've seen or heard Luis talk about the Kellini incident.
I haven't seen it yet because it just came.
Yeah,
That's the most
and
recent one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he does get emotional. And he's holding back his tears because he even says, "I've been to therapy. I had to, spend time with a therapist and go through that." But when he talks about that moment, and especially at the match ends and there's celebration, but he's like, "Oh no, there's this whole other thing that's about to happen. What did I?" And he calls his wife after the match, and her first question to him is immediately, "What did you do?" And so these things have been building up the hype for me that I feel like I'm not getting enough content every day.
Yeah.
Like the pictures and the videos of training is not enough. I'm like,
Mm.
I need the news reports. I need to know what's going on, ground level. But yeah, World Cup fever is very much in me right now, especially for La Celeste.
Yes, I mean that's now the team. I think we got 21 players in, still 5 missing, and yeah, we're still looking at little snippets and little photos and videos. But hopefully, we will get an idea of how Uruguay will line up, how Arajo's injury progresses or his recovery progresses. So we will see. First, I want to have a little look in the chat. George Chumilo, good to see you here. Danny F, you've been here before. Thank you for being here again, man. From Toronto, and also Finagre Berry from Mexico, and another Uruguayan from Brooklyn, New York, as well as George then from San Antonio, Texas. So anyone watching, thanks for being here. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, you can do this. And yeah, hopefully you will be here in the coming hour or so, as we are talking everything Uruguay basically. So yeah, and another comment from Ismael. Let's keep it at Ismael. That's better, I think. Hi guys, I'm just listening because I have some work. Thanks for the live. I've been waiting for this. I'm another Uruguayan away from home. Thanks, Ismael, for being here, and hopefully we're doing a good job of keeping you off your work. So yeah, and then Joaquin Sneebecker. Who else is coming to Doha next week? Well, I know for sure we aren't coming to Doha. I wish as well, yeah. But you are, and that's great to hear, man. I mean, I heard Ignacio Alonso, the Uruguayan Football Association president, he talked about 1,500 people coming from Uruguay or are expected to come. Obviously, coming there will be a huge financial commitment. But yeah, hopefully we will see, and we will obviously see Uruguayans or fans of Uruguay from every part of the world be there. Maybe also some fans Qatar hired. We will see. I don't know. We will see.
So, yeah. If whoever is there, take pictures, take videos, and tag the Warriors account. And we'd love to see. I'd love to sort of live through sort of your footage or experiences online, honestly.
No, absolutely. I would love to see this as well. So if you got any photos, videos, and if you're going, please send it to my account or Alessandro or Farid. We will all love to see it. First, I want to get your opinion, both of your opinions on the squad, because it's been a few days. The squad is here now. It's no point in arguing about anything. But is there anything that surprised you or surprised you in a positive way or a negative way? Alessandro, let's start with you first.
Sure. So when the squad came out, I found out through the production, and it's definitely a production made for sort of the younger generation of fans, because I know the older generation, such as my father, was like, what the hell is this? Just release the list. This is nonsense. But very dramatic, very well produced, I will admit. The two things that stood out for me, number one, is the lack of center back depth. We're walking a very thin line, in my opinion. I mean, you brought it up on the account as well. If Jimenez suffers an injury, if Guates suffers an injury, Araujo's not even 100%. We don't know really where his real fitness lies. I assume, just get based off training footage, somewhere between 60 and 75% at the moment. Then you're left with what? Who? Cáceres? Godin? Do you want to go into a World Cup quarterfinal with that sort of back line against, as you get to the quarterfinal, looking at the bracket, it could be a Germany or a Spain. Then you're in a little bit of trouble, in my opinion. The second thing that sort of struck me as a little bit off was Maxi Gomez. I just do believe that Diego Alonso's comments and the criteria that he sort of laid out previously in terms of activity, in terms of previous form, Maxi Gomez didn't really meet that sort of criteria. I'm surprised as to why he was included with the squad. In recent days, I've sort of come around to it because maybe it's an alternative for Cavani, because Cavani is not even 100%. We don't know what's going on with that. But I would have liked to see someone younger or someone more versatile or someone a little bit more informed to come in there. And Damian Suarez was a little bit of a letdown, but I reserve my judgment on that because we don't know what the details of his situation or his injury. I know he's been on the bench, but he hasn't played, so we have to wait to see what happens with that.
No, to follow up on Alice's points, you think about the Maxi Gomez call-up, it was surprising as well as a fan of also in regard, but I think it was, and yesterday it was Buisan and Cashman speaking about this in Tele12, and they were saying when you look at all of the other strikers, all the other forwards, from Satriano to El Canario to Maxi, the guys in Mexico, no one in these last 3-4 months had stood out to say, take me. Like, it should be me. I would argue David Terans in Brazil, but where does he fit in the system? And one could talk about Diego Rossi, but is he the guy that you want up top? He's never really played up top in the current structure, in the current system. And Terans hasn't had any minutes in the current system and structure either. So it becomes a matter of who knows the system, who's part of the culture, who's been there, who's played in the World Cup before, who gives you size. And you never know if it clicks and it happens. Well, great. So you say then you take someone like Maxi. Joaco Piquerez not being on the team was a surprise to me. I thought he had put in the time and the effort. Certainly, the Brazilian press and players and coaches believe that he has, since he is now in the starting 11 for this year's Brazilian League. He is the starting left back. However, Viña gives you a depth. If we go into that situation of all of a sudden Coates pulls something, Jimenez, something happens, Viña is able to step in and play that center back position for you. Where I don't know about Joaco Piquerez's experience in that position. I don't think this is the end of seeing someone like Terans or Joaco Piquerez or even Damian Suarez on the team. This is simply a list of 26 for this competition. I think also as you watch these interviews by Cotelo, because the different players are on the team, it becomes clear that the referentes, the guys who are on the team from 2010, if they were healthy or able to get healthy for the World Cup, they were going to be there. Yeah. Unless if it was something devastating and a surgery, they were going to be there. Godin, the comments about Godin, anyone can say the age, the speed, the surgery, he was going to be there.
Yeah, I agree.
Cavani we don't know about how his heel is recovering, but Cavani was going to be there. So these are all things that we need to understand. Also, with the production itself of the list coming out, one saw Argentina's, and it looked like it was a cell phone recording of their coach just saying the list and thank you so much. You look at the beginning of the production, it says visit Uruguay. And so this is also a business. This is also eyeballs and ears to see about all these different parts of Uruguay. And that millions of people are going to watch this video. So it's an opportunity of okay, how do you put more of a spotlight for the country in regards to commerce and tourism? So especially for it to be visit Uruguay, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ministry of Tourism was involved in covering the cost or partial part of the cost of that production. Yeah. I work in production, so when I see these things, I'm like, okay, how was this made? So,
well, I think you make some good points. Certainly about, the big players, the veterans, they were always going to be there. Godin for sure. Cáceres, for me, he shouldn't have been there. For me, it's not like we need him, but yeah, he's going to be there because he is part of the culture of the national team. And I think also Maxi Gomez is there for a similar reason. Because, like you said, Farid, no one has hit the ground running this season with the likes of Satriano, Canario, Alvarez. Stuani, you can argue, has done well in the limited minutes he's played, but there's no standout candidate like Maxi Gomez himself was back in 2018 when he scored 18 goals in La Liga. So there's no standout candidate to come in and to be a backup to the giants, the Darwins, the Cavanis, the Suarez. So for me, I'm okay with the squad. Alessandro and I, we've talked about it, but some decisions we probably would have made differently. But overall, it is a good squad, a brilliant squad. When you look at past squads, for sure. And the surprise for me in the squad, there was talks about him being there, a huge campaign from a lot of people that he should be there, but he is there now. Facundo Torres. That was the big pick, obviously, because you had Ocampo, who was doing well for Cadiz, was being talked about. What Terrans you mentioned, when it comes to numbers, he is probably at the best year of all the options. Rossi, he's been there for now 2 years on and off at the national team. But Alonso decided for Torres. How are you feeling about this inclusion? Alessandro, let's go with you first.
I was a little bit surprised, just because Ocampo was the one who was being called up lately, and we hadn't seen much of Facundo for a while. But the more I actually sort of, sat with the decision and kind of thought about it, the more I'm sort of at peace with it, and I actually agree with the decision itself, because he has characteristics that are different that can be offered as opposed to Ocampo, whose characteristics are more in line with Adair Scaeta, for example. Facundo Torres is also left-footed as well, so that's also something very important to keep in mind. But he has this sort of street fighter versatility where he can play a little bit deeper on that wide side. Well, we saw people sort of talks of him playing right back for a little bit on Twitter, which to me is a little bit nonsense. But he offers a bit more of the defensive characteristics in sort of the wide positions, which Uruguay is lacking, that Ocampo wouldn't necessarily give you. So the more I've sort of thought about that decision, the more I sort of end up agreeing with it. And I think he will come good. I have this sort of gut feeling that he will come good.
Yeah. I agree with the points. It's and to add to it, it's what he's done currently at the club level. Like, Ocampo has the raw talent, no question. But you see what Facu has done right now at Orlando. He just continued to build and build and build and build. To even now have the attention of the likes of Arsenal, as we've been reading about. So we're not talking about Facundo Torres, the Peñarol player, highest transfer fee in Peñarol history to go to Orlando City, but he was right. He was a higher transfer.
I believe so.
In Canario, yeah. So you go from that to now you're talking about the possible right wing at Arsenal. So these are, and plus again his when we were talking about again the defense matter, all of a sudden if the center defenders do get injured, it's important to remember that Valverde can go back and defend. Not at that position, but if he has to be more defensive in a match, he can do it. And so can Betancourt, and so can Vecino, and so can Torreira. And we have the other guys con el olfato de gol, like Nico, like Shorshan, who if all of a sudden it's not Maxi goes into play, but it's those guys going further up front to with some of the other guys having to maybe stay a little back to make sure that defense is grounded and protected if there's any weaknesses or injuries. So yeah, I'm cool with the Facu call up. I was watching the Cadiz game. Ocampo didn't start that game, and I was thinking maybe that could have been something that tilted it in a certain way. Facu's been playing. He's been building with Orlando City. There's talks of him going to Europe after the World Cup. He's got the momentum going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally get behind what you're saying. And also we have to realize Torres, although having a good year, it's not like he's now close to starting. I think still he's an option from the bench because with the comment of Jorge, hey guys, the best starting 11 can beat anyone, which I obviously do believe as well. But if we look at the starting 11 and we look specifically to the game against South Korea, because Uruguay, as Alonso has been, well, as said, he does adjust in game according to opponent. So Uruguay will play differently throughout the tournament. But if you look at the first game against South Korea, who do you believe should, for example, start next to Jimenez? It's not sure yet, according to reports. Do you think Alonso might up with the experience of Godin, or do you believe he goes for Coates? I mean, let's say, what do you think? What do you think Alonso will do? Because I think we all three can agree on who should start. But what do you think Alonso would do? You two.
I mean, what's my starting 11 against South Korea?
Well, I mean, I was easing into it with one position, but if you want to give the starting 11, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't touched that yet because not all 26 are even there. So
Yes.
I need to see all 26 there and start to read things here and there, see what you get out of South Korea as well. But um, yeah, I have no thoughts. I know Darwin's gonna play if he's healthy. I know Valverde and Betancourt are gonna play if they're healthy. And I know El Chino Rochette is going to start if he's healthy. So those are four of my starters for the match. That's it.
I think the obvious, the shoe-ins. I mean, Oliveira is going to play. Jimenez, you just already named the midfield already writes itself into the team. Suarez and Darwin up top. I think that's definitive. I think there's no argument on that. And it's based on sort of the last friendlies as well, in particular the Canada game, the relationship that Suarez was building with Darwin as well. That's going to be pure chaos to see those two up front together, by the way. But we'll see. What I would do, I would start Guates. I think Guates should start. But I could see a world in which Alonso starts Godin. I could see that.
Me too. Yeah.
Is it reasonable? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it would be suicide to play Godin versus Portugal, for example, right? I mean, I think everybody can sort of agree on that. But in the first game, I could see Godin getting the sort of ceremonial sort of start the same way that Lugano got his start against Costa Rica in 2014. And if this happens this time around, let's just pray to God that it's a different result.
What you were saying, Alice, reminds me of something that we can think about in past iterations of this team as well during the prior coaching staff of, what's Cebolla Rodriguez doing on this team, and something that in an interview with Alonso, sometime during this time since he took over as head coach, was that when he believes in his players, and he always says he does, as he should. But he had also reiterated once that if he understands that there are certain players that even if they haven't had continuity at the club level, when they put on the jersey, they can bring it. I've been on the defense with that at different times because I'm like, if he's not playing, if years ago, if Nacho is not playing, why is he on the team? If Tata's not playing, why is he on the team? If Soledad Rodriguez isn't playing, why is he on the team? But it's something that I wonder. I wonder if it's cultural. I wonder if it's just something ingrained. He was a footballer, so he knows. So do I see Godin starting? It wouldn't surprise me if he does. But I also I do respect something that Suarez said in an interview, that he was fine if he wasn't fit, before going to Nacional and getting the time to rest and put himself into shape, that when Alonso came on, he understood that if he wasn't on the list, he was okay with that. That he was going to be able to give the coach everything he has to be able to play. Now, again, I don't know if that's Godin's case. They all want to make it. You can see they all want to be there. But does Godin start? Let's see how Cuates is developing from his injury as well. It's great to have El Profe Ortega on the team. And he did speak this morning. And he did say that the players aren't as sore as he thought they would be, or maybe, but still using the word desgarro. No están tan desgarrados. Yeah. They are sore. It makes you think these guys are sore. So he has 10 days to stretch these guys out and put them into shape and get ready for that first match.
No, I mean, what you're saying about Godin, it's he wants to be there. Suarez wants to be there. Everyone wants to be there, and I think we all can agree that it's okay for him to be there. Certainly now there are 26 players in the squad. Situation now, though, is with Araujo not fully fit, still looking how this is going to evolve. With Jimenez, always a worry to get injured, and Coates just one game back from injury. There is a situation where Godin has to be played, that could arise such a situation. But moving on from Godin, from defense to the attack or the midfield, this question by Jorge Cepero, he says, I think Ristri will be in the starting 11, and what do you guys think? So yeah, Alessandro, he hasn't played a minute for Manchester United so far. Few appearances for the under 21 side. It's a really unprecedented situation for me anyway, to see such a player go to the World Cup and be in actual contention to start in the first game. How do you look at this situation?
Is very much dependent on whether Son plays for Korea or not. Because if Son's going to play on that flank for South Korea, then Pelistri, in my opinion, should not be playing. It should be someone more defensive, such as Canobio, to provide cover for the right back. In particular, if that right back is not going to be Araujo, I can trust Araujo on a one-on-one with to deal with Son individually. Can I trust another right back who's not Araujo to deal with Son without sort of the support from a right-sided midfielder? Pelistri will not offer you that defensive cover. So I do think it's very much dependent on whether Son plays or not. If he plays, then I would not opt for Pelistri in the starting 11. I would opt for someone like Canobio, a little bit more defensive-minded, someone who can. The perfect example is the way that Alphonso Davies was nullified by Varela and by Canobio in the friendly just about a month and a half ago. So I would expect to see sort of a replay or a repeat of the same sort of tactical setup to nullify Davies, but this time applied to Son if he does play in this game.
Right, if he does play, which is to be determined. He's day to day. Facundo Pelistri to me is he's una gran incógnita. It's I don't get it. The kid's got the talent and the stuff. If he doesn't get injured in the preseason, then he'd be somewhere else right now playing on a loan. Yeah. The injury happened, so they couldn't loan him out anywhere to play, and there he is practicing. Yeah, and there he is practicing at United. Does he start? Yeah, I don't know. That point about how is his defensive skill set? It also depends on what becomes the defensive mindset and strategy for the match itself. Like, are we going to see a conversation that my dad and I have is, are we going to see Alonso's Valverde or Ancelotti's Valverde? Because those are two different players who play different positions. And that's a big thing there. I think that could play a role in if Pelistri starts or not. Because if it's a defensive Halcon, then you have a little leeway of who's up front. I think another thing there that's important to see, Shorshan spoke yesterday. He's saying he's feeling better. Shorshan needs surgery. It's been confirmed. Yeah. He needs surgery. So that's another player on the squad who you never know how that groin injury is going to creep up on him. If that groin injury creeps up on him, that's that. So it's about also seeing what form does he go in going into that first match, see who plays that role. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Nico starts because of his speed and how well he's playing right now. And for me, Nico had a really nice 2 friendly matches. But again, time will tell. Ultimately, I think it's what becomes the defensive strategy for that match. And what role do Betancourt and Valverde and Vecino, probably who will start, have during that match in regards to who's up front?
Okay, yeah. I mean, you mentioned Vecino in the midfield. Joaquin goes similarly. This is a team. And when looking into it, I would agree on 10 names. The obvious one for me, which Alessandro will immediately know which one it is obviously Vecino. But Alonso likes him, just like he likes Maxi Gomez, and that's why Maxi is also in. Not to an extent that Maxi will play, but Vecino is someone with the length, also he is a huge engine in his game. But the position of Vecino, or who will fill this in, will be really essential or really important to Uruguay, because you mentioned Valverde, the role he plays in Uruguay and for Madrid, which I do believe though is really versatile for Madrid at the moment. It's like he's everywhere, which is obviously great to see. But Valverde and Bentancur, to see them flourish in the best way, for me, it's essential to have a CDM behind them in the top games for sure, like Ugarte or Torreira. Vecino is not the one for me. How are you looking at this, Alessandro? What is your belief on the midfield setup, the ideal setup?
Alonso does have a tendency to prefer Vecino. Vecino is very industrious. That's what he is. He's a very industrious player. He's not going to give you much in terms of technical output in the final third, but he'll cover the run. He'll track. He's box to box. He'll do the simple things. But the problem is that it's a tough question. I could see him starting. I don't think he will start. And the point you just made there, to get the best out of Bentancur, is to play Valverde beside him in the middle. They have a familiarity with each other, and I think you're able to maximize Bentancur by having Valverde beside him, and maybe someone like a Torreira or maybe a Ugarte behind them as sort of a defensive shield. But then in that case, then are we going to be playing 4-4-2? Are we going to be playing 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3? 4-3-3 being the least likely of the formations that I just mentioned, obviously, but definitely an option given the midfield sort of options that this team has at its disposal. I don't think he will start the first game, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a stronger midfield that we have to come up against, like a Portuguese midfield or even a Brazilian midfield in the second round. A player like Vecino just to cover a man or just to be a scrapper in the middle, when in particular to put an extra body. I can see Alonso shifting towards a diamond-based midfield, for example, against Portugal. That I can see that Vecino will fit into that system. Against a career Ghana, I don't think so.
It's Vecino's move from Inter to Lazio was key.
Yeah.
He's back with Sarri, who knew him from before. This is a manager who trusts him. This is a manager who works well with him. Bentancur's, the most exciting thing about Bentancur being sold to Tottenham last year to me was like he's gonna be with Conte, and it's we see it. The proof is in the pudding. I think what Vecino has is this continuity and a trust from his club manager that I wouldn't be surprised. These are things that lift a person's spirits up and their confidence. And again, he has the size, he has the height. If we want to talk about just height itself over Ugarte and Torreira, yeah, he's the tallest of the three, and I think he's the tallest of the midfielders as well. I think he's taller than Valverde and Bentancur.
Yeah, he is.
So there's that element as well of having someone steady, as you were saying, Alice, that what you see is what you get. He knows his role. He does it well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does start that first match.
Okay. No, I can totally get behind what you're saying about Vecino, but don't you think Vecino is a player that is the backup to a Valverde? Not that he delivers the same, but in the sense that he is a more advanced box-to-box type of midfielder. But I do believe that in these bigger games, not particularly against South Korea, we do need Ugarte, Torreira, a terrier who can shield the defense and can also be really disciplined and secure in possession, which is one thing that Vecino is not. We've seen this in many qualifiers over the last 2 years. Certainly in big games, when the margin for error is smaller and smaller, Vecino is not up to that level. And obviously, it's great that he's went to Lazio because he's got continuity again. He's not started every game, but he's played way more and more. So that's great. But I think we can talk about it, but we will see what Alonso will decide for because we're not sure yet. Another thing we're not sure about yet is for the left side of potential 4-4-2 or maybe even a 4-2-3-1. So the left attacking side, Oliveira is secure, but then you have Tarasqueta, you have De La Cruz, even Torres, for example. But it's not a position which is fixed. And I would like to ask you, if we are deciding now who's playing against South Korea and we are, for example, playing a 4-4-2, who would you like to see on this left side for Uruguay, Alessandro?
Tarasqueta. Oliveira is strong enough defensively, in which I think Tarasqueta deserves to start as well. You have Bentancur on that side as well, who could cover and shift out wide to cover for Tarasqueta. It's already worked towards the latter end of the qualifiers when they played a lot of 4-4-2. That seemed to be a tactic that worked, a setup that worked totally fine. I'd probably opt for Tarasqueta.
Yeah, I think El Cocho or Tarasqueta, Jordan would be great. Let's see how that groin injury is looking in the days to come. Because if in like an example of Ronald, Ronald's got Barcelona physical therapists there on the floor with the team, reporting back daily on how he's moving. And if at a club level there's an agreement to have Ronald play, Ronald's not playing. And you also have to think long term. Okay, Ronald doesn't play the first match, like Suarez versus England. He comes in the second match, or if they get out of the group stage, he enters and in the next round. You got to see how is that groin injury doing for Jorjan to see, does he start now? I remember Tavares had this thing that he would allow the players to decide if they're playing or not.
Yeah.
And it would drive, as a fan, drives me nuts. And
that's the worst thing in the world. As a former, like I didn't play professional, but I played, at a decent level back in Canada. But if a coach comes up to you, even if you're the slightest bit injured, you're always going to choose to play.
But when you watch that Cavani interview with Cotelo, he says something I had never heard before. Cavani says in that interview, if I'm 85% or 80%, I'm not playing. And he refers that to the game against France.
Yeah.
So it makes me think, hold up, dude. You were 80 or 85 and you chose not to play? Don't tell me you were 80, 85 and chose not to play against France. Put on the magic spray, take a shot, and get out there.
Suarez was 50% against England and played.
Suarez talks about that England match in his interview. He was feeling the stitches during warm-up.
Yeah.
And he goes to Profe Ferreira, no me siento bien, the stitches are bothering me. And he says to him, don't worry, I'm going to stretch you. I'm going to give you a little something. You're going to be fine. After the match, he asked me, what did you give me? He's like, I don't know. I just gave you some random. Yeah. Huh. So again, I don't want to hold it against Cavani that what you were saying, 80, 85% isn't enough to play. But yeah, if that's Gaeta, George if he plays. And if not, then I think it's Nico with the speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think both will be really good options anyway. I think that's the luxury for Uruguay now. That's the quality and depth is really impressive. I mean, sure, Uruguay is not France or Brazil still, but to have two players outside of the limelight from European football like De La Cruz and Rascaeta in the squad is exciting. Obviously, for what it's worth, I would probably go with De La Cruz because of the injury or the pain, the pubalgia, I think it's named, the type of injury he has. Yeah. I mean, luckily we have players that can also play and are at the same level or similar level than Rascaeta. So I would go with De La Cruz for sure. Let's have a look at some comments. I mean,
while he has the same injury LeBron James has right now to
okay.
Out there,
no.
the
Okay,
NBA
that's not a good indicator judging off LeBron's recent form. But
there you go.
So the comments, thanks for the comments. I put them in even if we're talking, so we have a look at them and everyone can have a look at them. But let's now address maybe some. Juan says Nunez will be a big tournament player. He's progressing. I mean, they Darwin, Valverde, but for example, especially Darwin and Bentancur come off a really brilliant last game for sure, scoring 2 goals in their last games. Bentancur especially 2 goals in 2 minutes. I mean, the month of like the 2 months he's having or the season he's having anyway is really incredible. So hopefully Nunez can have a big tournament. Will really help us and yeah, maybe also silence some doubters even more because that's what he's good at. So yeah. Toby LFC we'll be supporting you lads in the competition. Good mixture of experience and youth. Darwin top scorer and Suarez top assister. Yeah, that would be a dream come true. Them up top. Another question, by the way, I want to ask you. I think we are. I mean, Alessandro said it, and I think Farid, you probably will have the same thoughts, or maybe not, and then we will be proven or have another perspective. But it seems like something accepted that Darwin and Suarez will be the 2 starters now at certainly the first game. That seems something. Also, because the Cavani is still coming back, it seems fixed. But how do you guys see the role of Cavani in this tournament? It's so different to 4 years ago when Cavani really became the big man in this tournament. 4 years on, I mean, of course, he's 35 years of age. But how do you see his role in this tournament?
Just given his injury problems, he cannot complete a full 90 minutes. This has been a reoccurring thing, even when he was playing on Manchester United. So this is a year and a half, almost 2 years of sort of the same persistent injury after injury after injury and inability to finish a 90-minute match. I think, in my opinion, leaves Alonso with no other option but to have Cavani become sort of a closer. Last 10 minutes, you need somebody up there. You need to knock a cross in or an aerial threat. Also, Cavani, we know he works like a horse to get back and track back. Whether he's able to do that to the same ability as before is obviously questionable due to his age. But I can't see him being anything else than a closer at this point.
That's not a bad closer to have.
No,
exactly.
That's true. And the thing is, what I've seen for Valencia, I mean, he's not fully fit now, and for sure he's really injury prone. But the games he's played for Valencia, I mean, he scored some goals as well. But he's also worked like you said, like a horse. I mean, it's unbelievable the work rate he still can deliver. Um, and Cavani, he will. I mean, I think he will play a part in the sense that he will be decisive also still. But yeah, we will see what role he plays. Will be interesting to see for sure. Um, let's have a look. Jorge with another comment. Uruguay have 3 players who can't play 90 minutes. That is Caeta, Suarez, and Cavani. Not to mention Araujo. And that's true. I mean, for now, he is still. I mean, you never know if Cavani recovers to the full fitness. That's Caeta, maybe if you can overcome it. But yeah, these are 3 players that cannot play 90 minutes. But as I said before, the depth really covers for this, which is great. Yeah,
Not just depth, but the increase in the amount of substitutions that you can do.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think we'd be in real, it'd be a lot more difficult of a situation if we only had 3 substitutions.
That was a good point you make. Yeah.
I want to say something to Nathan's question here. It says, will Nunez play on the wing? This is not Tavares coaching. This is Diego Alonso coaching. So it's
No.
that's not a swipe at Tavares. It's not. Once upon a time, if it was still Tavares coaching the team, I'd say, yeah, maybe Nunez does need to drop back and play at the wing. I don't see that. Diego Alonso was a forward himself in his professional career, knows the importance of having his forwards up front. I think it is going to be a Suarez and Nunez duo at the top. We'll see how that goes and how they move together. For me, the role of also a Cavani on the team isn't when he's just on the pitch, but when you talk about los referentes, it's how they're preparing these guys to these young 20-year-olds to what's to come. Like, we already saw Darwin Nunez have the worst possible start, a terrible start at Liverpool. To know that, to then hear that Luis immediately got on the phone with him after, or was writing him, texting him to calm him down, like, that is the role that also Cavani plays. It's preparing these guys mentally to not let the adrenaline empty the tank in the first 15, 35 minutes of a match, but you're aiming to win, and teams are going to come at you. They're going to play the mind games. The refs aren't going to give you calls your way. The press is going to be on your back if you don't perform well. There's going to be all this pressure. You just have to put that noise aside and do what you're good at. So I think that's a great role that Cavani has on the team as that mentor, as that older brother to these younger guys on the squad.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the role of the big players, which I like a lot as well. When you see Suarez, for example, commenting on below the post of Ugarte or whatever, I mean, it's just small things, but that's really gives an indication as to what kind of role models they are, not only for the goals they're scoring or the great games they have played, but also for the way they communicate with the others. Yeah, Alessandro.
Is there an argument to be said that we just start Darwin by himself up front and add another midfielder in, a 4-2-3-1, Darwin Nunez causing chaos himself? You really solidify the midfield with another body, right? Because, Uruguay, and even in the last World Cup, not many teams play with that two-striker system anymore.
No, it's an interesting point, and I think it kind of leaps into, not really, but Nicolas Hernandez Vidal here. He believes Darwin Suarez is the way to go. And how do you think is the best? What do you think is the best way to accommodate both strikers? So that's a good question. And you raise also this point is somewhere there needs to be like a sacrifice. If you go with Suarez and Darwin, you have to sacrifice a certain element of another position which is more defensive minded, just as well as if you play Ugarte or Torreira behind Valverde Bentancur, you sacrifice a little bit in the attack. So that will be a really hard puzzle to figure out for Alonso. And maybe Farid, what? Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question because I'm again gonna ask you about the lineup or a certain.
No, that's happy to explore this. And what's coming to mind is the following.
Okay, please go.
Luis Suarez, from 2014 to up to 2 years ago, played with currently the greatest footballer in history. and he provided more assists than both of the top two players in history, in current modern day history combined, right? Suarez has more assists than Cristiano and Messi combined.
No.
So knowing how to step back and give a pass to someone, Suarez learned that at Barcelona. Suarez learned in Barcelona how to step back and how to give that extra pass, how to find that guy. I don't know if Eddie's a pure striker, and he can pass and can run like hell and give you what you need. But up top, if Suarez, you can think, oh, I have another midfielder and have Nunez up top, but you already have that with Suarez there because of the way that he can move, the way he can see a field, the way he found Messi and Neymar those years. I'm not concerned. And even look at the Canada match, right? You see the assist. It's like they're starting to learn to see where they are. And another big thing in this team, which is the lack of ego. Like the famous interview, Suarez got to Barcelona. He sat down with him and Neymar, and he said, "Este 10 vos sos el mejor." This is no ego trip of who's getting the ball and who's scoring the penalty kicks. It's you, and that's that. I'm here to make you better, and if you're doing better, the team is doing better, and we're going to win, and all I want to do is win. So in a World Cup like this, like Luis Suarez, he even said it in his interview after with Nacional when he was like, I'm not that Luis Suarez anymore. I can't all of a sudden go in and play that. I have to play a different way. So I'm fine with Luis knowing how to be able to find and create offense with the other guys there creating, finding Darwin up front. It's just a matter of having Darwin be focused and not try to do too much, but just trust his instincts to be able to put the ball behind the back of the net.
My only concern becomes is when you play a stronger team, in particular a team like a Brazil or a Portugal with a very strong midfield in particular, those characteristics that you just listed for Suarez, you have to get the ball for Suarez to do those type of things. There's going to be a lack of pressing. The thing that I'm worried about is Suarez isn't going to give you any press. Suarez isn't going to give you sort of a track on a certain player or to come back. Especially, I look back at the example of the role of Cavani in the England game in 2014, where Cavani was stuck like glue to Steven Gerrard and completely nullified him throughout most of that game. Suarez, I feel like can't or doesn't have the ability or the fitness to do that. So I do worry when we do come to more difficult games, how that's going to work. And from a tactical perspective, I feel like having Darwin start by himself against a bigger team might be more beneficial for this team, and then have Suarez come on against more of a tired midfielder defense and then play that role where he can play that pass into when more space opens up, as opposed to at the beginning of the game when things are going to be very tight and closed.
I think to share to your point, Alice, is if. There's the if you play Brazil, if you make it that far, right? And of course, we want the whole thing, right? Vamos por todas. Coach says it himself, but in his press conference last week at the stadium, he said, "I'm only thinking about South Korea right now." And as a fan, I try to protect myself and my anxieties and my intensity of saying, I don't want to right now. Yes, I know who's in the group right next door to Uruguay's. I know who's there. I know what sort of potential second round match there can be. I know that. But I know first there's South Korea. A few days later, there's Portugal. And then as a fan, you wish that the Ghana match can be a resting day and not have to go against Ghana looking for points. As a fan, that's what I think about right now. I don't want to go against Ghana looking for points to qualify. That's not in the entire world.
Yes,
in the entire world.
Yep.
The only team in the entire world, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Spain, the top tier teams, the only team as a Uruguayan fan that I do not want to have to play against in a match depending to earn points to go to a next round of a World Cup is Ghana.
You're going against a narrative, and you're going against what will be extra motivation.
Exactly. It's personal. Team. It's personal. It's personal.
And we all know in World Cup history and precedent that the personal does come back and bite you.
It does. It does. And which, again, as a fan of the team, you can say, what personal? The fake foul, the offsides, or what? What personal? Yes. Or the missed PK? You can talk about that. But you also understand the other side of it. Mm-hmm. That if that was Uruguay going through that, then you know what this is.
Exactly.
Like what dive, what offside? Ref didn't call it. All right, our guy missed the PK, but your guy used your hands. So
I will say, I know I mentioned Brazil as a team, and obviously to keep grounded, and my approach is also to go game by game. I would put Portugal in sort of the same. They're not as good as Brazil, but I'd say Portugal is one of those bigger teams where sort of a setup like having Suarez play more of a midfield role would be a bit of a concern. But we'll see.
Yes. Yeah, like you said, we'll see. But I think there's that big thing, right, of how do we not set our own emotions up, because we as fans we put so much of our well-being on the athletic performance of these humans that we don't know, and that we have no say or control on how they're going to move kicking this one ball around, and who scores more about it. But it's fun, and we're excited, and we love it. It gives a sense of like, oh my, it's an excitement, it's a thrill. But still, there is this sense of going match by match, and let's see how they go against South Korea in a few days, in a little over a week's time. And from there, see what are the takeaways to then have the next match against Portugal. What I do feel I feel assured by the coaching staff. I feel assured by this coaching staff. Not to say that I wasn't assured by the last coaching staff, but there was a time I was much more assured about the last coaching staff than I was later on at different times. But like in 2010, I was all about the coaching staff. And 2011, all about that coaching staff. 2014, if the bite never happens, you never know how long that team's going to go. So there's this thing like this coaching staff gives me as a fan the confidence that they're doing their home. One of my favorite interviews in the last week that the official accounts have put up is the 2 interviews with the data team.
Oh yes,
I'm all about data.
Yes,
I know people can say data has hurt sports and the gut instinct. Data has also helped sports. So I'm looking forward to seeing what has the data team prepared for the coaching staff going into these 3 matches. So I feel very confident in the coaching staff. So then, again, we'll see. I've been trying to not get myself excited thinking down the road, but just thinking match by match, how do they do, and then seeing what happens.
I know with the last coaching staff, it came post 2014, for example. I knew that coaching staff had a ceiling, but I knew that it's okay that they had that sort of ceiling in which we had the players or the X factors in the team to elevate us above that ceiling. Suarez, Cavani, Godin, a prime Godin, right? Muslera, who was a lot better back then. But this time, obviously, with a lot less of that sort of X factor or multiple X factors spread across the field. This time, it's more so contained in our midfield. It's good to have sort of assurance with the coaching staff, knowing that they're going to figure out every single little detail. Because I can tell you for a fact, I don't know this, but I can tell you 99.9% there was no data analytics with Tavares' team. I bet you not.
No, I do believe you in that one. No, I mean, it's also interesting to see on this coaching staff that there are people which I also didn't even work with before, and also from different footballing cultures who are in the staff. And also Dario Rodriguez being there, I'd like to see this. To be honest, today I looked up about the opening goals to prepare a tweet, and Dario Rodriguez actually was the one 20 years ago in 2022 who scored the opening goal against Denmark, which was a stunning goal. You probably will remember. So yeah, it's good to see him there and many others. I want to go into address this one a little bit. But David, can you please ask your followers what cities they're located in? I would love to meet up if there are some others in LA I can watch the games with. I will certainly do this, my friend. You can also message me on Twitter. Maybe you've done before, by the way, but I will certainly get it sorted. And let's have a look at some other comments.
JKMJ33 is in LA.
I believe so. Yeah.
If he is, then yeah.
Let's
I don't know if you see it. Yeah, I'm in LA. So yeah, I'm actually getting together with one of my friends who's from Uruguay as well to watch the first match. But I'd be happy to get together with other Uruguayans to watch any of the matches. That is if I'm not traveling during that time.
Yeah, because you said you were going.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence to see if I just want to go to the conversation we were having before the stream started was that I had this thought that if they make it past quarters, I would fly down to Uruguay
Oh,
to like watch the matches
I did that for 2018.
You did that for 18.
So
Okay,
I
wow.
went to 18, and the Jimenez goal. It was like we were so happy that we ran into the backyard, and you could just hear collectively
That's awesome.
an entire street, an entire like community just at the same time just lift up. It was really,
so
I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm feeling those chills you saying it. So I've been having my mother really and my dad today as well saying you should just go now.
No, it's the opposite
Just
this
go
time.
now.
They're coming here for the game. So
they are right.
Yeah.
So my family's like go down and just watch as much as you can there to see how far they go. So I'm on the fence right now. If I'm in LA, JK, MJ33, then I'd be happy to meet up in person and watch a match.
Yeah, it would be nice for him and for everyone, by the way, who can link up in different cities all over the world. I'm still looking for someone here in Holland, the Netherlands, but I will find them for sure. Toby LFC with a question: what's your current manager's philosophy? Well, I mean, Diego Alonso is obviously not well known to the wider public, and certainly now going into the World Cup, a lot of people will see him or come across him for the first time. I think Alonso, what we have seen, and Alessandro, we talked about it when he was appointed as well, is that he is someone who likes to take initiative off the ball and in possession, and likes to press high, and basically apply some modern day football principles. It's in line with this, but with Uruguay, some pragmatism always will remain because it's really ingrained a little bit in the DNA of Uruguayan football. But I would say it's a little bit of a hybrid between the old way, like Tavares, and then the new way. It's the switch is not completely there yet, which is also difficult, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, like he's a modern coach, but it just looks so modern to us because of what came before it in terms of coaching, right? It's like coming out of a really bad relationship and then getting with somebody else and getting into a normal type of relationship. It's like, oh, this is what it looks like. This is how it feels like. But in reality, your perception is just kind of somewhat diluted or a bit messed with because of the previous experiences. And that's literally what it is in this case. I mean, Diego Alonso, I have a good friend of mine, Alejandro, I'll shout him out. He's from Mexico. He's a big Monterrey fan. And Alonso was coach for that team and won the CONCACAF Champions League with them. And I've been asking him, and I asked him many questions about Alonso, and he says he's been a very good coach. He's very well respected and regarded in Mexico, and he's a knockout type of coach. He won 2 times the CONCACAF Champions League, which is a very difficult tournament to win twice. And then he went to the MLS, and the conditions in Inter Miami were not conducive to anywhere near success. It was very poorly managed, and it's still kind of poorly managed. But we kind of know what he likes. He likes his 4-2-3-1. But something else that he also said, and something else, a characteristic that I learned about him, is that he really takes input from the players, and he really considers how the player wants to play or what role they want to play in his system, and that has a big sort of influence on how he will set up things.
Right, I was surprised when I not surprised. I was. It was. I don't know. It caused. I can't find the words to it, but when the players and himself are sharing that they keep in touch throughout the entire between the times the national team gets together, they have Zoom calls. They talk about how are you feeling. They're checking in. They're talking tactics leading up to how do they feel about this position and that role. It feels very supportive. It feels very conducive to the overall sense of camaraderie and unity to the team. I think also I think you just can't go in and all of a sudden shake things up so quickly. You can't do that to the athlete. Maybe not, especially in Uruguay's circumstances. There were 4 matches left. They were what place were they in? 7th or 8th place?
7th or 8th, yeah.
Yeah, and you had to like all of a sudden start building momentum, get people to buy in, win a match in Paraguay, and then go back home and win them. You just had to win 4 matches. And not only that, to have a new guy come in and say, I'm going to win all 4 matches. That to me was, I remember there was a lot of the saying, vende humo, he's just selling smoke. I was eating all of it up. He came in. We're gonna win all 4 matches. We're gonna win all 4 matches. We're going all the way. We're going all the way. That part of me is there, but I think that to me has been my favorite thing. You go back 4 years ago, the match against France. I as a fan, the players on this team, the talent on this team. But when the messaging up top is, we are not France, we are not Germany, we are not Spain, we are not Brazil. As a fan, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you saying? If I'm your player, I don't want to hear that. Tactical or not, it's you wonder these things, what it does to a mindset going into a game. If you're saying we're at the level to beat a France, does Godin score that shot before halftime? Does the ball go through Muslera's hands? Is Josema crying at the end of the match? 5 minutes to go before the 90th in the 87th minute instead of going and fighting to look for the goal? I don't know. But when I have a manager, when I have a coach telling me I'm showing up and we're going to win all 4 matches, you betcha that does something to a group of athletes who have to go out there and win. It's very different, and for me, that's my favorite thing about this.
It's okay to acknowledge. Okay, France has a much more squad depth and a lot of talent, but Uruguay, we have so much history. The history that pulls us. He never was like the lack. You're right. The lack of motivation before that France game. The messaging would have been, "Hey, this is a super team. This is a super team." But we're Uruguay. We have so much history. 15 Copa Americas, 4-time world champions. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna play with that history behind our backs. We're gonna leave everything out there on the field. Instead, it was dour. It was negative. And I know you were saying about Alonso selling smoke and all that kind of stuff. We needed that. I think the fan base needed that more so than any other point, because you just had a Copa America that was played earlier that year in the summer, which was the most depressing and negative.
That PK match against Colombia. I didn't even watch that match. I didn't want to watch that match because
I kid you not, there has never been in my sort of 12, 13 years of watching the national team, there was never a time where I didn't feel in the mood to wear the jersey, such as that tournament. I know there was a lack of fans, but also the comments from Tavares during that tournament saying we don't have an obligation to come win the Copa America. Are you
That's
kidding?
what I was thinking of, and indeed, that's the exact quote I was thinking of when Farid, you were talking.
I had forgotten about that quote.
Yeah,
that was just with Tavares. There were many things playing, but the way he conducted himself in the press by downplaying Uruguay's historical importance in football, obviously, and then coming out with this comment, we have no obligation to win the World Cup. I mean, that was just, and the complete switch with Alonso, which for sometimes it's a little bit of bluff as well, which the manager needs for sure. But
we have the obligation to win because we are who we are, and
it's a complete switch from himself. Look at Tavares in 2014 before the Colombia game. Vamos que vamos, right? Like he can be Tavares. There was a time when Tavares was that motivator, but obviously age and obviously
before
time.
the PKs against Ghana, the famous shot. He's telling the guys, "Let's go." So it's. There's a lot of things that as fans we don't know about, we won't see.
Mm-hmm.
What is helpful is one, when you go again from 2006 to 2010 to the disappointment of not making the Germany World Cup, to what Tavares came in to set up a structure, to set up a process, to go building the pieces, building respect amongst the national team again. It was instrumental. It was so key, and ever as a fan, one will be thankful. And also as players, when you go back and watch these new interviews that are coming out with Rafael Cotelo, which only come out every 4 years with the national team, right?
Yeah.
Each player, most of them who were part of that process, part of that time, what they're doing to give context, Rafael Cotelo shows up to this player's home, and he's got 12 cards of their jersey on it, and all of them have the same number. And then they ask the player, like Cavani, set your structure, your strategy. So he's like, okay, 4-4-2. And when he flips over every card, it has someone's name on the back. And then they talk about that person and what it means to their life, or that date and time, or that team, or that city. And all the guys who played for El Maestro have El Maestro as one of those people in their life. Betancourt talks about it. Valverde talks about it. Suarez talks about it. Muslera, they all talk about El Maestro and what he meant to their lives. So as fans, it's easy to say, oh, we got stuck in the past and in these ways. It's true. An obligation not to win something. I don't want to hear that as a player. I want to go out there and I want to win the whole thing. Or if France is a better team, yeah, France is a better team, but I got the top goal scorer in French football over here. I got the Luis Suarez up top as well. Godin and Jimenez are pretty good defenders. Muslera is a top goalie in the world. So I like my guys. I like my chances. And I think, like, again, I think overall, I remember when the conversations were being had of who's going to coach this team. If it was going to be Almeida, if it was going to be Medina, if it was going to be Aguirre. I wonder if that's what Alonso had when he met with the board. Of he sold that smoke, and I think as a fan of the team, you wanted to hear that. You wanted to hear a guy come into a board meeting and say, "Look, I don't know what the strategy is going to be yet, but we're going to win." Okay.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. And quickly on Tavares, and I mean, I don't know if you felt this way, but certainly towards the end, I was feeling like, come on, Suarez, Godin, or someone, please, some because it was not working, and it wasn't working for a long time. But towards the end, it was really sour. I mean, but the problem is that we understand the players will not not go backstabbing Tavares. It doesn't happen, and sure, it doesn't have to happen. And for me, it shouldn't happen. But then you have the board, the AOF, which was just full of people that wanted to keep Tavares because he was shielding them from all the blame. And then he all crumbled down, and they have now Alonso. Luckily, the switch is now been made. It's not been pretty, but we have Alonso, which is great because I think he can be there for at least, let's say 2 cycles if he wants to be. But I mean, that's great. We've been talking here for a little bit over an hour. I'm trying to round it off. I mean, it's not going the most subtle way, but the thing is, it's already past the midnight here. But I want to thank all of you for being here. I quickly want to address this comment, Dave, from Royal Pistolero. I recognize your name for Twitter. I will be in contact with you, no problem. I think Alessandro and myself, we were talking a little bit about this. We want to get more and more fans who want to share their feeling, their passion on the channel. We certainly, I certainly will be in contact with you for this. Thanks for that.
We've been talking for an hour and we barely even tapped the surface. We barely even got into anything. We could sit here for 3-4 hours. We could talk history. We could talk past World Cups, everything, all that type of stuff. If we do have time, maybe squeeze in one more before the first game to do a predictions or what's going to happen, or a bracket filler, for example, right?
No, that's certainly, we certainly could do that for sure. Yeah.
If I may, I'd like to finish with one comment personally, and as we're wrapping up, this for me, I don't know what it is. Sometimes watching sports throughout the years, you're kind of aware of the athletes being older than you. They're like these guys who are older than you, right? So, the 2002 squad was older than me, and the 2006 squad was older than me. But then in 2007, 2008, as you're watching the team closely, you're starting to see that those years of their birth start to reflect your own, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my generation playing right now. This is the years of my childhood in the country. These are guys who are also in first grade, second grade, preschool, Bobby Foot. Wow, these are the guys, and it's something really, I don't know. It's this feeling of being special, of seeing these 6 doing their last hurrah. 6, right? Or 5? 5. Sorry.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. So it's seeing these guys having this last hurrah, but also seeing the guys that are coming up as these little brothers. To know that in 2010, when I was having such a panic attack during that quarterfinal match, to know that there was this kid named Federico Valverde, wasn't even 10 years old yet, or this kid named Rodrigo Bentancur. Darwin Núñez was 6 during the Ghana match, or Ugarte was 6 during the Ghana match.
Yeah.
I was in my mid-20s during the Ghana match. I was Suarez, and those are my guys playing. Those are the guys who are my age playing and representing. So it's like this very special feeling of like this turning of the page, ending of a chapter with these guys and of my generation. And then like having these, younger siblings coming up and about to take the mantle, and you always hope every generation takes it further, right? And I'm very excited. I'm emotional by it. Um, if anything, it's caused all of a sudden for me to have, man, quite an attachment to the matches that are coming, because it's like I remember the first time I saw Cavani's name. When there was talks of him going to Chelsea or who knows where, he ends up going to Palermo. Like I remember Godin playing for Nacional in the Libertadores. I remember Suarez, like, who's this guy from Nacional? And he goes to where? To where in the Dutch league to play? Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm thinking to myself, who's this guy? He goes there. I remember Suarez's, that first goal that he scored in the Centenario in the first match of qualifiers. So Cavani getting called up. When is Muslera going to get called up and get the start at keeper? Cáceres winning a Champions League for Barcelona, but never playing at all, but being there. So these are things that it's special for me personally as a fan, and then being able to see them play with the jersey, it's special. And again, I'm very thankful to be part of this space today, to the two of you, to the Warrior audience. Again, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to always to reading how you're putting these tweets and all this news together. Vamos arriba.
Oh, Farid, thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure.
I'll say a couple sort of things too to sort of wrap up, but I think you put it beautifully. The generational passing of the torch is something that's also I've been thinking about and reflecting a lot as the tournament comes. Obviously, my first World Cup was 2010, and I've sort of said this before, alluded to it. I hated the sport. I wanted nothing to do with it, and I just used it to sort of get out of it, like a get out of school card. And I was 9-10 years old in the World Cup of South Africa, and I sat down for the first time to watch the France game, 0-0, no goals. And I'll never forget that feeling, saying, wow, seeing my dad react to the game and get all emotional. And I said, wow, this is something, I'm into it. I really like it. And then growing up with Suarez and Cavani and Forlan and Lugano, and I would play in the backyard with my brother, and we would like commentate ourselves, or I would try to be Suarez, or we try to like recreate the goals and stuff in the backyard. And now that's sort of coming to an end is somewhat very, very much of an emotional thing for me as well. And the opponents, each one as well, have an emotional significance. Korea, Portugal, Ghana. Like, what are the odds of that? To have your last dance, the sort of the three most iconic games in the last 12 years of World Cup history for La Celeste, and it's just something that I sort of can't wait for. And even Valverde and Bentancur, I remember the first time I saw them in the under-20 in the Sudamericanos in the World Cup as well. And those are my guys. Those are the guys who are 99.
That's your generation, yeah.
And now I'm looking, I'm like, wow, like, look at me at school. If I was just a little bit better, maybe I'd be over there.
I always tell people, if my parents, if we had never left the country, I'd be the seventh referee. Like it'd be me.
Yeah, no, my dad always tells me, like, to do what? To carry the water? But yeah, no, all joking aside, no, I can't wait. And obviously this is a great space to sort of come on and share these type of emotions with you guys. I'm honored, I'm happy, and I can't wait to get into the tournament and have more opportunity to do stuff like this, and also share it with the fans as well.
Yeah, I mean, the stories you tell, I can really understand. Certainly, your connection with Uruguay much closer than mine. It's really special to see these players going into their last dance, or Bentancur Valverde coming onto the scene. Will be exciting to see each personal story of them develop, and I mean, I can't wait for it. And it's a week away. It's just there. I mean, it's a couple of days, and we have the World Cup there, and Uruguay will be on. Thanks to all of you being here. It'd be nice to see your comments, your feelings about the tournament, and we hope to do this more frequently in the coming weeks, and hopefully we can do it until the very end. The 7 games, hopefully this will be the case. But anyway, we will see you very soon, a couple of days. I'm not sure which day, but if you follow me on Twitter, you will see it. First, Farid, Thank you. You can
Pleasure. Thank you.
maybe say your Twitter handle, maybe the way people.
Sure. I'll put it in the chat here on YouTube. It's Ciudadano Mundial, but without the U in Mundial because Twitter didn't let me use different spaces.
Okay.
Ciudadano Mundial. And hey, just a thought. Warriors should have a Twitter space as well to do it. Just going live and having the conversations, especially during the World Cup. It could really be something that can bring in a lot of an audience to be listening at the same time and build up the account. If you notice that the account has always, as you know, the account has always grown during the tournaments.
Yeah.
So even if it's not on YouTube live doing streams like this, but turning on the Twitter Spaces and just doing live, here we are, we're going to talk about this, and then using the hashtags for it, the tags, people will come on and join the conversation and talk about these matches that Uruguay is playing in.
No, you mentioned it to me before, and it's really interesting. My knowledge of this Twitter space is like zero. Well, I will have to look into this.
Anytime you want to talk about this, it's what I do for work. Anytime you want to talk about strategies to grow your service. Yeah.
Thank you. So the Twitter handle here in the comment on the screen. Alessandro, I think people will know, but you can say.
I'll leave mine as well in there for people to see as well. Vina Alessandro 1, and I'm also tagged on the tweet as well. So go ahead, give a follow, and you'll definitely be hearing more from me in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. And thank you, by the way, for being here. It's been nice. We've crossed the hour mark, and like Alessandro said, we hardly got into many topics which we should also address. But yeah, the World Cup will be long, and we will talk a lot about the World Cup on Twitter and on here, and hopefully you guys, we can all enjoy this tournament. Maybe not too much work, too much school. For me, it will be the case, but yeah, I mean, we have to handle this. Anyway, okay. Thanks for watching the stream, and we will catch you very soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Ciao, ciao.